everyone, so this is going to be more of a relaxed walkthrough of the thermal camera view I've been working on. It's made for the TOPDON TC001 and the TS001. I wanted to make something simple that had the basic controls for what you'd expect a thermal camera viewer to have. Hopefully make it customizable but also run on Windows, which was quite important to me. This won't be a tutorial, I'm just going to quickly show you what I've made, how it works, and a bit of what went into it. So this is the full window. When you open it up, it shows up as full screen straight away. It used to turn on as a smaller window, but then I realized it just makes more sense and it's a lot more practical to just have it maximized straight away. You have four main areas to work with. You've got the sidebar on the left hand side with all the controls you'd expect to have on a viewing app. You have the central section where you have the camera feed and the camera selection process at the very beginning. You have an analysis tool on the right hand side that I'll explain what it does later, and that also works with the monitoring section at the bottom. Everything resizes automatically. It took a bit of fiddling and a bit longer than I expected, but it works now. I'm working with CustomTkinter, which is an advanced version of the Tkinter library on Python. It just looks nice and has more options available to make a nicer GUI. However, I've been running into a few issues with high DPI screens and the frames not sizing up properly to what they're meant to be. Still working on that, but hopefully that will be fixed soon. So when you first open the app, you're met with this page. In the background, there's a process running checking what devices are connected to your computer. Right now I have the TC001 connected and the TS001. So you can see I have two cameras, the TOPDON Camera 0 and TOPDON Camera 1. There's no real way of checking whether it is a TOPDON camera. However, using the resolution of the video feeds, I am able to kind of identify whether it's a camera that TOPDON produces or whether it's like a laptop webcam, which would in turn cause a program to crash because it's just not built for that type of resolution. So you select which camera you want and you click connect camera. If there are no camera feeds present when you launch the program, because you, for example, forgot to plug one in, you'll have no options here, but if you click refresh, the program will cycle through, detect all the cameras again, and it should say at least one supported camera found. Once you have this, you can just click connect camera and the feed should start loading up. So now let's just focus on the left-hand sidebar. At the top, you have a disconnect camera button. Of course, if you click the button, the camera disconnects and you can select a different camera. For now, I'm just going to stay connected to camera 0, which is the TS001. So once the camera loads up, you have the start recording button and the take a snapshot. The start recording button records the exact video feed that you see on the screen. That will be including the overlays, any markers that are present, etc. And also you've got the take snapshot, which just takes a screenshot of the picture rather than just a video. Underneath that you have the image adjustment section. Here you can just select the color presets designed for thermal imaging, color that's just set as a default for now. Underneath that you have three main sliders. You've got the brightness, contrast, and blur radius. Brightness makes the picture brighter and darker. Contrast, you can increase or decrease the contrast of the video depending on the outdoor conditions. And then you've got blur radius. I added this because it was a possible option. I doubt anybody will ever need to use it, but the option's there if anybody will. Underneath that you have four options. The rotation for 90 degrees, 180, 270. They're coded in so that all the other settings and color maps, etc. also work when the feed is rotated around, so you don't have to worry about that. Next is the invert color map. Up here, if you decide to, for example, pick magma, but you want it inverted, if you click invert color map, the whole image flips and maybe you'll be able to see the animals clearer. As you can see here, you've got a few horses walking around with a hotspot pin right on top of one. You also have underneath the temperature thresholds. Here you can adjust the thresholds, so any temperature below minus 34 degrees will be highlighted. So if we keep going up, some areas of the image will become highlighted. Same with the hot threshold, so anything above this value will also be marked. So if we go down and try and identify hotspots, there we go. So I've set it to 21 degrees. So anything above 21 degrees now will also be highlighted. As you can see, there's nothing outside other than horses at that temperature, so the horses will naturally become highlighted. Next, you have the overlap threshold. This is a toggle function, so you can turn it off and on. You have to adjust the coloring between the two thresholds. It's quite fiddly. I haven't figured out a better way to do it. However, if anybody wants to have a play around with it, feel free. All three of these sliders and thresholds have their own color option. So if I bring this back to what it was set to before, if you, for example, click color, you can pick a different color for the threshold based on what color map you have set. So let's say if you want green, and if you click OK, the thresholds now become green, and also the slider will change its color so that you can have a visual reference. Next, underneath you have the heads-up display and a similar color option. This by itself is in charge of having the minimum temperature, maximum temperature, and average temperature of the entire frame, the center temperature, and you can see around you have the cold temperature flying around at the top. That's the coldest point of the whole video feed, and then you have a little red dot here which highlights the hottest point of the video feed. If you click the HUD button, everything disappears and you get a clear video feed. So if you want to just record a clear video, that's the way to do it. And then if you want to reset all the settings back to default, you just have to set reset default, and everything goes back to the way it was at the very beginning when you turned the program on. So now we're going to move on to analysis tools. This is closely related to temperature monitoring, but for now we'll just focus up here. You have four main shapes: rectangle, circle, line, and point. They're quite self-explanatory. Draw line, you pick a point, you drag your cursor while holding down the button, and you let go, and you draw a line. This will be labeled as a region, so the line is region 1. If you draw another line, because for example you need one, you get region 2. And so on and so on. So if you keep drawing the next circle, it's going to be region 3. You also have the option to plot a point. A point is a single pixel on the video, so it only has one value, so the minimum, maximum, and average temperature of this one point will all be the same. You also at the bottom have an option to clear all. So if we add a bunch more points onto the video feed and click clear all the points get deleted off the video feed and it is back to what it was before. And now on to temperature monitoring, the final part. Here on the left hand side you have 5 options. You have the option to display the minimum, maximum, average temperature, peak temperature, which is the highest registered temperature value throughout the whole time of the recording, and the lowest temperature of throughout the entire time. For now I'm just going to select both of them. We're going to select a area where we want to monitor the temperature. I'm going to use a rectangle, and for now I'm going to monitor the right side of the tree, catching the ground below. So once you draw your region, you can start recording, and as you can see the temperature is quite stable. There's nothing really happening there, nothing's moving, so you would expect the temperature to be quite static. The max temperature is around 21 degrees and the minimum is around 16. There's not really much else to it. You can add different ranges throughout the recording. You can add another section up in the sky if that interests you. That should drop the temperature quite a lot further down. So as you can see on the right hand side, you've got a legend. You can see that region 2 appears orange. So you can see the plots appearing down at the bottom of the graph. You also have the option to stop the recording. This pauses everything, so if you resume the recording again, it continues from the exact same point. It doesn't continue the timestamp, it continues from the exact second that you stopped. You also have the option to reset the data. This completely wipes everything that has been stored in the graph, and you start from the beginning. You also have the option to export data. If you select export data, I will blur this out. However, you get the option to use File Explorer on Windows to select a place where you want to store the values. They will be stored as a CSV, which is comma separated values. They're super easy to import into Excel to do whatever number crunching that you might want to do later on. So those are the main functions of the program right now. I will be planning to add a bunch of other things to see how they work. If you have any recommendations, please go ahead and drop me a message either on TOPDON Community or somewhere else, and I will be happy to respond. Maybe I'll even be able to implement them later on. And the horses came back, so let me quickly restart the recording. You can see how the maximum temperature has jumped. Let me quickly draw an additional line. You might be able to see how the temperatures change on the green. So the horse is passing by and the horse has left the zone and the temperature is plummeting back down to the average temperature. So yes, this is the end. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to the next video.